Hi there, this is Kyla-Journey Womack, and you're listening to Word to Us, amplifying Black women's voices on WBCA 102.9, Boston's community radio station. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Word to Us, a podcast by a Black first-gen female student for Black first-gen female students. Today, I'll be the host of this series, and last season, I focused on the taboo topics that weren't talked about within the Black community and households. This season, I want to branch out on my topics to create a community that centers Black women's voices and opinions. Although I created this podcast for Black first-gen female students, that doesn't mean they're the only ones that can listen to this podcast. They were my original focus because I wanted a community that caters to the intersection of my identities, and I wanted to carve out a space catered to Black women created by one. The topics I plan on covering within this series can apply to any and everyone. Hi everyone, so today's episode I wanted to talk about romantic relationship boundaries with someone whose show I've been screening as an intern currently at Boston Neighborhood Network, and her name is Linda Solomon. Welcome to the show, Linda.
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking me or inviting me.
Yeah, of course. So Linda, for listeners, can you just give a little bit of an introduction to yourself and also your show as well, and just your mission behind being connected to Boston Neighborhood Network?
Sure. So a bit about me. I am a retired teacher, retired educator, and the co-founder of a nonprofit called Confronting Injustice, which focuses on injustices within the judicial system and then injustices throughout the system. You know, we, as people of color, are dealing with systemic racism, systemic injustice. And so I think it's important for those people most impacted to have a voice. And so that's what the show is, the radio show is. And you can find us on BNN and then on YouTube. And then a little about me, again, a retired educator, a parent, very, very much dedicated to restorative justice, ways of being. So social justice advocate and abolitionist.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to start today's episode, but I'll just sort of go to the first thing I thought about, which was in terms of like romantic relationship boundaries. There are boundaries that you have, within yourself and then also with other people, with friends and with family members. Mm-hmm. But I think that a lot of the time it's interesting and also like a journey of discovery, sort of like in the moment as you go through the experiences of figuring out the boundaries that you have with your partner. And the first thing I mentioned was not losing yourself in a relationship, and how do you show up for your partner without forgetting that you were a whole person before them.
Interesting. I hosted I'm part of a team of Black females who host a monthly, actually it's a year-long series, and it's called The Healing Table. And this month we talked about relationships and shooting from the hip. And so this topic is right in line with that, with what we're talking about today. And so when we think about, when I think about relationships, I think first about like what is your understanding of what a healthy relationship is, and where does that come from?
Mm.
Where did you learn that? Did you have models?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you talk specifically about boundaries, those boundaries that you have or may not have are directly connected to what you believe to be true about relationships. And so it is critically important to have boundaries in any relationship. And so then, and that's something that you have to think about and be very deliberate and intentional about. Because if you don't have boundaries, you can very easily lose yourself, or sort of find yourself sort of melting into whoever it is that you're with, like kind of adopting their way of being, or,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So the boundaries have to be intentional and deliberate. It's something that you should have many conversations about. You might want to journal about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the boundaries are related to your values. What's important to you?
Mm-hmm.
It's trust. Trust important. The Yeah, it's what your values like. This is so. Let me. The, being trustworthy.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? I'm drawing a blank at the moment, but
It's okay.
but the boundaries are things that are important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to decide how you want to be treated, how you want to be seen, right? How you want to, and how you want to extend yourself. How much of yourself do you want to extend?
Mm-hmm.
And then where does all of that come from? And if you're not clear about those things, then it's easy for relationships to kind of go awry. And so you have to evaluate. You have to think about what's important to me, what's not.
Mm-hmm.
What values are important to me. What does a healthy relationship look like to me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do I value myself? And if I do, these are the things that are important to me. These are the things I will allow.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because many people have not taken the time or had conversations about that, it's boundaries can be meshed, and it can cause confusion.
That's true. And I definitely see that a lot. Like currently I'm with someone, I've known him, we met when I was 12. So we've known each other for a while, and sort of like transitioning from like being really good friends to like now being in a relationship. It's like there's a different level of the person that you got access to before you started dating. So it's just it's very interesting. And then sometimes, like you said, like the boundaries sort of mesh. So it's like, okay, like I understand there's, the romantic aspect of a relationship, but there's also like the friendship aspect. It's like, yeah, you can love the person you're with, but do you like them? Like, do you like them fundamentally as a person?
Right, absolutely.
And I think that something else I was thinking about too is like spending intentional time with them, and then also intentional time on your own. So I was thinking about like hobbies and things that you did by yourself, or things you did to keep yourself entertained when you weren't like eating, sleeping, or at work, and just continuing to have those habits and have those things for yourself.
Very, very important. And you're absolutely right. You can like someone but not love someone. There's a stark difference. But it is important to have hobbies, things that you like to do by yourself or with your friend group that is independent of whoever you're with. You don't have to like the same things. You don't even have to have the same friends.
That's true.
Ideally you have a friend group, but your identity is separate from your partner's identity. And that should be clear, and that shouldn't be problematic at all, So you do want to have relationships outside, friendships, hobbies, interests. You might not even like the same music, but that's okay.
True.
You just want to be clear that you're being true to yourself first.
Exactly. I find it's more of a blend between like, you're on your own an individual, but then when you guys like come together, it just like makes sense that you all are together. And like you said, you don't have to like the same things. Obviously, you would like to make sure that, you know, like the people that you hang out with, like your friends, like obviously they're supportive and your
Right.
friends can't necessarily tell you like, oh, you shouldn't be in a relationship with this person. But if like everyone around you is saying something, then it's like, okay, let me take a step back and think about this from like an outside perspective, which is really hard to do, especially when you are with someone and you're like, oh, but like I want to be with this person. Like, what do you
Right.
mean? Like, this doesn't make sense.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I just find it so interesting. Like, a lot of people, you know, like, I think that there are times when, you know, I wouldn't call it a problem, but it's more just like something came up and you're feeling a very specific way about it. And obviously, you can only solve the problem if you're talking to the person who you have it with. So in this case, if you're in like a tiff with your partner, you can only solve that problem by talking to your partner. But I think it's also important to have friends that can hold you accountable and be like, hey, just because they got on your nerves doesn't mean you didn't also do something that was
Right.
kind of disrespectful. So I think having accountability partners, but also sustaining those friendships outside of bringing them your relationship problems is something that's really important as well.
I totally I totally agree. And it's an area that requires that you're very cautious because everyone who may be in your close circle may not have your best interest in heart, or there may be there's so many possible dynamics, but you do want to have friends who can be neutral, who are not going to just side with you because they're your friend. Like you want someone who can keep it real with you, right?
Exactly.
And true friends they'll do that. But also, friends can be, when it comes to relationships, they can be problematic as well because you don't know what their motives are. If they're
That's true.
genuine and sincere, fine. But you, especially when you're having problems, you want to talk to people who you trust, who you know can be neutral.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if I want to say neutral, but at least level-headed so that they might help you to gain insight that you might not see because you're too close to the situation. But the friend group, we always hear about friends getting involved in relationships or going to advice for people who may not be in a relationship with someone. There's all kind of dynamics that come into play.
Exactly.
But, as you said, having friends who can see both sides of the story and give you legitimate suggestions or opinions. But ultimately, when you take like your experiences, your culmination of experiences, and that's generally what people base their decisions on.
Exactly. And it's more about, like you said, it's not necessarily always objective, but definitely having someone who has an outside perspective. And if they are someone who truly has your best interest at heart, they'll look at the situation and be like, okay, this is what you're telling me. I'm hearing what your partner is trying to tell you. So how can we sort of meet in the middle and figure out like what the core thing that you guys need to talk about is? But
Right.
sometimes it's not, like, obviously not everything is that simple, but it also is that simple because I think a lot of the times the issues that people end up having, it just boils down to communication. You said something in a way that didn't make sense to that person or to whoever it is, and they took offense because it was communicated to them in a way that they found disrespectful.
Right. Right. And it's interesting. We in relationships, because many of us do not have a clear understanding of what a healthy relationship is, we oftentimes are reacting based on past hurts or past ideas or judgments that we made way before we were even thinking about relationships, because our idea about relationships develops way before, develops early on.
Exactly.
And so we want to be clear that when we're in a relationship that we we're clear about what, in fact, that should be a conversation. What are the qualities of a healthy relationship?
Mm-hmm.
And that should be a conversation between your partners.
Mm-hmm.
And if yelling and screaming is not, then you know when you get to a point where you're not agreeing,
Mm-hmm.
you know what you don't want to do.
Exactly.
Because you have a shared agreement.
Exactly.
And that conversation also sets the stage for healthy boundaries. Because you can say up front, it's important for me to have my friends in my time. And, same for the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that I don't want to spend time with you, but we're both individuals, and what brought us together, we wanted to, whatever the attraction was, you wanted to stay there.
Exactly.
And so meshing those boundaries can be problematic.
100%. And with that sort of transitions us to sort of the next thing that I wanted to mention. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Word to Us on WBCA 102.9, Boston's community radio station, and Word to Us is amplifying Black women's voices. So on today's episode, I am talking with Linda Solomon about romantic relationship boundaries and what you might not want to mesh and things that you don't want to compromise on. But I also believe that relationships are about compromise and communication.
Absolutely.
But not when it comes to your personal beliefs, your safety, and things that are fundamentally important to yourself as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But with that being said, and with talking about boundaries, I think this is also an important time to mention the unfortunate downside and the unfortunate harms that can come to people in relationships, especially if you're someone who you live with your partner, even married, unmarried, or you're just like domestic partners. Domestic abuse and violence are unfortunately really prevalent within not only the Black community, but just within
society.
Yeah, just overall, like violence is just prevalent, and especially when it comes to domestic abuse, because a lot of the Black community perpetuates the idea of like, oh, like, what happens in the house stays in the house.
Right.
That can lead to unsafe conditions for someone who is either relying on their partner for, a space to live, financial navigations, or just like financial freedom, like especially if you're tied to, their income. Like I think a big part of a lot of the people my age that are like, oh, I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom is because the idea of, okay, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I'm taking care of, the house, the bills, all the things, but it's like, even if you're not working a job, you're depending on your husband, and obviously they don't want to assume that things could go wrong, but it's like if they do, they're like, where and what am I supposed to do?
Right. Listen, it's that's interesting, the idea of this whole domestic violence and being at the so if you're a stay-at-home mom, the finances on the dad or the father or the husband.
Mm-hmm.
And it can create this this power dynamic, but which can be very problematic. And I have to say, being a stay-at-home mom is going to work is easier than being home all day with your children.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had both experiences, and it is much easier to get dressed and go to work and have someone come take care of the children, for sure. But for someone who, if you end up with someone who is controlling, there typically are signs that you should be watching out for, right?
For sure.
And that goes back to having clear expectations about what the relationship is and what it should look like, or what you would like it to look like, just to make sure there's some consistency there. But the you maintaining your autonomy. If someone has a problem with you being having your own autonomy, that's a problem. Like there are some signs that you should be looking for. But again, people miss those signs because they go into relationships not really knowing what a healthy relationship looks like.
Mm-hmm.
They basing that belief on TV, something they saw,
Mm-hmm.
or just like a pie in the sky, like the white picket fence and the two
Exactly.
cars and
Yep.
so we go into relationships. All of us have baggage. We all
Mm-hmm.
have baggage.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we just let it kind of spew out, it's going to wreak havoc. There's no doubt about it. And for people who don't deal, well, let me just say this.
Mm-hmm.
I would encourage people to take the ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences Assessment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's an indication of um, the traumatic experiences, things that you experienced as a child that are traumatic,
Mm-hmm.
that does impact your ability to establish and maintain healthy relationships. And so you want to go in to any relationship being clear and clean,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and I say that because if someone has experienced a bunch of trauma, it's going to show in your relationship. It definitely will show up in your relationship. And so if you're with someone who's violent or someone who's too possessive
Mm-hmm.
or someone who's abusive, there are signs. There
Mm-hmm.
clearly are signs that you need to be looking for,
Mm-hmm.
or just just be aware. And and then the question of people who are in those relationships, why do they stay? Probably related to their trauma, right? Because it makes sense if you find out that someone is abusive, it makes sense that you would leave.
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't. That's
Mm-hmm.
men and women.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to probably self-esteem issues,
Mm-hmm.
which that might trail back to adverse childhood experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So just being aware, self-aware, right? And not taking on the responsibility of someone who's acting in ways that are not healthy. You always have to maintain your individuality, especially if you have children, because they're the audience, right? They're watching.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be an individual clearly
Mm-hmm.
and be in a relationship and have healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to lose yourself in abuse, neglect. Those are prevalent. The violence prevalent. So you just have to love yourself enough to make wise decisions, or put yourself in circles, safe spaces where you can be around people who can be supportive and encouraging. One of the reasons why the people who are violent or abusive try to isolate their partners is because they don't want them to get any outside support,
Mm-hmm.
right? They want it to be a secret.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the best thing that people can do is search out support systems and like shore yourself up. Just try to not get caught up in the lie, because usually
Mm-hmm.
abusers are not get caught up in that cycle of abuse, because it is
Mm-hmm.
a cycle. And so my advice is, if you see yourself like sliding into that, reach out for help. You don't, nothing like that should be a secret. You're not
Exactly.
obligated to
Mm-hmm.
keep a secret like that.
Exactly. And I think I know that one of the things when it comes to an abusive relationship is like the person is a narcissist or a manipulator. They perpetuate these lies and make you feel like you literally have no one,
Right.
especially because when you get isolated, you're like, okay, well, I know they're doing all these terrible things to me, but I don't have anyone else to talk
Right.
to and I don't know where else to go. And if I leave, then what do I do? How do I start over? So it's just that unease feeling, that not necessarily sure like what next move to make, and then also just change in general. Like that's a big it it's honestly one of the bravest things that you can do to leave someone that is treating you that way, because it's like you don't know what's going to happen afterwards. Like you know what's
Right.
happening now, you know what's happening with this person, so you're like, yeah, this is a toxic cycle, but it's a toxic cycle that I know.
Right.
Versus leaving and then it's like, okay, what if I get into a different situation, not necessarily toxic but just not necessarily great for me, but it's like I haven't learned the patterns, so I don't know how I'm going to go about navigating this. But I just know that there are some things that you may gradually become more comfortable doing with your partner just over time. You know, you just grow comfortable with the person, you get to know them, you know, like eventually, or not eventually, but you know, there are certain things where you know they have your best interest at heart, and you're like, okay, like I did come up with this boundary, like, no, this is something I'm dead set on. I don't want to do this, but sometimes when you become more comfortable, it's easier to let your guard down.
Right.
And that is fine. But if you're feeling at all unsure, just take that as a sign that you're not ready, and you don't have to shift that boundary if you don't want to, because
That's
it's
right.
yours to hold, to have, and to keep where it's at, unless you want to change it. And don't let anyone else tell you, oh, like, well, you should be doing this thing. It's not your relationship, and it's not your place for you to say that. And it's also not your boundary because you haven't had the life experiences that I have.
That's right. And you know what's interesting? I'm sure that research has demonstrated that people who are abusive or aggressive, overly aggressive, or violent have it's a sign of weakness.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a sign of weakness. And so I think it is critically important to recognize that, that things will be okay. You don't want to protect someone who's being abusive.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to keep a secret, keep that kind of secret.
Mm-hmm.
There were all kind of options. And people, if you tell someone something long enough, they generally will stop believing it.
Exactly.
And so if someone says nobody's going to want you, you're not this or you're not that,
Mm-hmm.
listen, I can't express it enough. There were options, there were opportunities. You always do. You never have to stay stuck.
True.
And you cannot, well, I shouldn't say you cannot because many people do it,
Mm-hmm.
but you want to be in environments, even if it's one close friend.
Exactly.
You don't want to keep a secret that's detrimental to you or to your health.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't. And people who, as I said, violent, aggressive, that's a weakness. That's coming from a weakness. It's probably coming from their trauma.
Yep.
Somewhere down the line. And so you don't want to fall victim to someone who is weak and has no self-regulation. That's
Mm-hmm.
just not safe for you or anyone else, and it doesn't help that person.
At all.
A lot of times I think females feel bad for their partner.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we really didn't mean it. Well, then he should get some help.
And he still said it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes a pattern. So people, you have to love yourself enough and have faith that things will be okay if you're out of that environment.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you talk to 100 women who got out of the relationship, although it may have been really difficult,
Mm-hmm.
they would say that they were better for it and they wish they'd gotten out sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is not to say, listen, I think abusers, they're like big bullies,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they only have power if people will allow them to have that power.
Yep.
And so there are things, there were always options. Always options. You always have options. And they may not be easy, however, especially for women who are in domestic violence situations.
Mm-hmm.
There are safe houses. It may upset your level of comfortability for a period of time, but in the long run, being safe and keeping your children safe should be a priority if you have children.
Yes. And I know that a lot of the time, like, I can't remember what the name of the movie is, but the movie, it's like J-Lo is in it, and basically she's trying to figure out how to free herself from an abusive relationship. And there was a point in time when she was like, you know what? He did all this stuff to me. She said, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to do it right back. I'm going to make him feel unsafe in his house with the new woman who he's with. And I have a kid with him, and he's just acting as if, like, her feelings don't matter. Like, she's seeing how her mom is being treated, and that in turn, like, when she grows up, she's like, I would never want my daughter to be in a relationship with someone like this.
Right.
So why would I stay? And I know parents always want, like, once you bring a child into this world, it's like, I need to do right by my child. I want to provide for my child. I want them to have the best path forward, which is why when it comes to, like, domestic abuse and domestic violence situations, they're like, I'm not even getting out for myself. I'm getting out for my kids. Like, my kids don't deserve this, but also that period of you're not sure where you're going to go. You're like, I don't want to subject my kid, to new traumas. But, through that transitionary period of having them in a new space or maybe in a shelter or a safe house or something like that, they're going to be better for it because now
Absolutely.
they're going to be safe. You know that they're safe. So that takes a lot of anxiety and weight off of yourself. And you can make sure that not only are they safe, but you're safe as well. Now you can start taking care of yourself mentally and addressing the things that happen and knowing that none of it is your fault. Because as you said, abusers are just bullies. They're people
they're
who
weak.
have... Yeah, they're people who have control issues. They had things going on either when they were younger or maybe they were in an abusive relationship.
Right.
They turned around and did the same thing. So,
Yeah, it's it's interesting. I did some work with women who were in a shelter. It's interesting. Many women just like they stay way too long. They almost become immune to the abuse. Like their partners can threaten to kill them. You would think their automatic reaction would be to run to get out, and and a lot of times it's not. No, that abusive situation, the cycle becomes normalized, and for me, my understanding of that is you have to go back to your self-esteem. Like, if you value yourself, if you value yourself first, because a lot of women stay in relationships that are abusive even when they have children and children are watching. And so we have to think, what is it about you, the woman in the situation or the man, that would allow you to stay and not leave? So it really boils down back. It goes back to self-esteem, possibly early trauma. That's not to say that everyone who's in a domestic or violent situation have had early childhood experiences that are traumatic, but if you love yourself, if you value yourself, then you find a way out. Like that movie that J-Lo was in. She mustered up the strength to do something. And she had a daughter, and her daughter was witnessing all of that. And so if you don't love yourself enough, then do it for your children or whoever else is in the audience, because people are watching. People know. You can't even hide something like that. It's like, maybe it's part of the psychological thing where you think people don't know.
they know.
They know. And so you have to muster up the strength, and that's by being in community, supportive environments. Have a network of friends or people who can build you up, who can encourage you. And, you have to put yourself first. And that's not being selfish, right? Because if your ultimate goal is to help him because you feel bad for him, then take care of you. And then if he really loves you, then he'll do what he needs to do as well. But
Exactly.
But it's never okay to be in situations where men are disrespecting you. And I'm thinking about your first generation younger women. Like, you have to have a set of standards. You have to have a set of standards, because if you don't,
Yes.
then you'll be treated any kind of way. Any kind of way. And people generally, we teach people how we want to be treated. Knowing, and we do this unconsciously. So we have to have a set of standards for ourselves. So make a set of standards that you want to live by, the things that are important to you, right? And then you try to stick to them. And then you should be deliberate and intentional about that, because if you don't do it, who will? Like, if you don't write your manuscript, if you don't write your the agenda for your life, then it makes me think of, if you leave your house and you have a destination, you might get sidetracked, but you get to where you want to go.
Exactly.
But if you don't really know where you're going, it's whichever direction you're blown in, like whichever direction the wind is strongest is where you're going to go. You end up anywhere. You could end up. So you have to be clear about your life, your goals, where you want to go, relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be clear and deliberate about that, and you should write it down, and you should have conversations, because if you're going in one direction and he's going in another,
Mm-hmm.
then you might want you should take note of that. And if you don't, then just anticipate issues.
I agree. I second everything that you said and then put 3 exclamations next to it.
Listen, let me say this too, and this may sound kind of. I think that everything boils down to a decision.
Mm-hmm.
If you and the person you're with are making decisions together, having conversations together,
Mm-hmm.
then you two can decide, listen, thick or thin, we're going to work through this.
Mm-hmm.
Thick or thin, we're not going to disrespect each other. We're just not going to do that. Thick or thin, we're going to save money for this, or we're going to parent our children this way.
Mm-hmm.
You should be having those conversations and write it down and be clear about what you want, because then when people, there's no we if there's not an agreement.
Exactly.
And so if you're in a partnership, it should be a we, which means there should be an agreement that both of you signed on to.
100%.
Listen.
And with that, we're just going to take a quick break. I'm Kyla-Journey Womack, and I'm here with Linda Solomon, and we're talking about romantic relationship boundaries and also the importance of not shifting them and understanding the early signs of domestic abuse and violence.
Trying to forget all the unnecessary thoughts in my head, man, it was pretty scary. At least I learned a thing or two about me and you, what we went through, and maybe who I am. I can feel again, won't be numb again. At least I didn't mess it up. That was all your touch. I don't miss it much, but it may be who I am. I can feel again, won't be dumb again. Said I'm trying to break off a piece of mind, a piece of mind that I can't get right. Said I'm trying to break off a piece of mind, a piece of mind. My heart's on my side, heart is on my side.
All right, everyone. Welcome back. You are listening to Word to Us, amplifying Black women's voices on WBCA 102.9, Boston's community radio station. I'm Kyla-Journey Womack, and I'm also here with Linda Solomon. And we have been talking about romantic relationship boundaries, understanding things that you may not want to shift in your relationship, understanding why domestic abuse and violence happen, and then also just coming to the conclusion that, there cannot be an agreement if you and your partner do not have a conversation and agree together.
That's right. There can be no we. There's no us if there's not an agreement. There's two people sharing a space or getting together, but if there is a us and there are agreements, established agreements. And we're talking about romantic relationships, so we have to talk about physical relationships, sex, being intimate, and intimacy. And your body belongs to you.
Mm-hmm.
You decide what is okay and what is not okay. And whoever you're with cannot or does not respect that, that's a red flag for you to start back. I would say run really quickly.
Yes.
In the opposite direction.
Yes.
And if you're not able to do that, then slowly back up.
Mm-hmm.
Your body belongs to you. No one else controls, dictates what happens, what you do, what you don't do. And that's major. That's like the game changer.
Yeah.
That's the game changer. You respect it or you're not, and if you're not, then you don't need to be in that space.
Exactly. I could list to you all of the horror stories I've heard from friends, people I know, especially being at college, like I'm going into my senior year. You can just imagine the buffoonery and tomfoolery and foolishness that I hear. Just and I'm just like, these are situations where if like sex was not happening, this situation just wouldn't happen. And I think a lot of people just don't, or in my personal opinion, I think a lot of women, a lot of like young women, I like even saying girls just like sounds wrong, but like literally like just anyone who is being sexually active, I think like they're not taking into consideration like their body is something that they need to protect. And also, like, that's an experience that you're supposed to share, or I believe that you're supposed to share with someone that, like, you know you're going to be with for a long time.
Right.
I personally do not understand hookup culture. I don't understand casual sex. It will never make sense to me because I'm like, what do you mean I have to be butt naked in front of somebody else? No.
Listen, listen. It's beyond my comprehension. Because no one, being intimate is like I would think that you would not let anyone get that close to you or be inside of you who you do not have a serious relationship with. What are you doing?
It's
What does that mean?
mind blowing.
So it goes back to self-love, self-esteem. Even like look at early promiscuity. There's a link between adverse childhood experiences and promiscuity. Like you cannot tell me you love yourself and then you allow people to, or you allow people to disrespect you, or in any way condone like that kind of. I don't even know. Your body belongs to you. Your body is your sacred. It's your temple. People should respect you. They respect your body. They respect what you want to do, what you say about your body.
True.
And if someone is pressuring you or causing you to do things you don't want to do, you want to like run fast. You just do because there's no getting it. Like you get venereal disease. There are venereal diseases that you cannot get rid of. You might be able to take medication to control it, but it only takes one time to even contract AIDS. You just have to be. I'm not saying I'm not gonna say you have to because you don't have to, because there are plenty of people who, like I remember, back when I was in college, it was like a free for all. I was like, what? Like, where are these people coming from? Like, what?
You're just like, what? Hello?
Really? Like, but listen, you just have, I think it boils down to, and I could be wrong, but I think if you love yourself, if you respect yourself, then you're going to have boundaries when it comes to that. You just are. And,
yes.
And people may not want to hear that, or they may think that's hard, but if you love yourself, if you respect yourself, then there are certain things, you have values that will determine what you will and what you will not do. And you're not going to allow someone to force you into something you don't want to do. And it can be really difficult because people can be persuasive. There's no doubt about that.
100%. However,
you're the captain of your ship. It's your body. You determine what happens to it or doesn't happen. It's within, and you don't keep like if somebody does something to you, you don't hold that. You don't protect them by not telling or getting help.
Exactly. And I know a lot of conversations when it does come to if someone's assaulted sexually or physically or anything, they're just like, oh, well, like if I didn't put myself in this situation, then wouldn't have happened. No. If you are someone who victim blames, I want you to know you're the problem. You're the problem, and you're why women and men don't talk about what happened to them and not necessarily find closure, but literally just mention it or even use the phrase like, I was assaulted. Like, you're the reason why people can't find some version of healing because you're making them feel like they did this to themselves, which they didn't. They were violated, and no one wants to be violated. No one asked to be violated.
That's right.
So for you to use the language, oh, well, she was asking for it or he was asking for it, is nuts.
What does that mean? That goes back to the narcissistic person, right? Like, I think we have the opportunity to be in control of our life and what happens to us. And when we lose that control or someone takes that, then they need to be held accountable. You don't make excuses for them. And it's not only about you, because someone who would do that, would abuse you sexually, is going to do it to the next person. So if not for yourself, think about other people. Like, no, it's not okay. If something happens to you, if someone goes too far or is abusive or sexually assaults you, tell. Tell, because it's not a reflection of you. It's simply not. And, we hear people talk about, well, she had that short skirt on or she was drinking. What did she think was going to happen? Well, but that still doesn't mean that someone has the right to take advantage of you.
Exactly.
And if you are acting in ways that are provocative like that, then you should be aware of what could potentially happen and act accordingly. Like, just, but protecting someone who's violated you, absolutely not. Carrying yourself in a way that's going to decrease the likelihood of something happening is your responsibility. Or being around, or making an agreement with your friends. If I drink too much, make sure I get home. Make sure I get.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
yes,
you can do things to, in some cases, to make sure that you're safe. Because you are going to be vulnerable if you are drinking to the point that you don't remember what you did, or you just don't want to make yourself vulnerable.
Exactly. And that was even something that, like, my parents told me before I left for school. They're like, there are going to be things that happen and you're going to be around people. Just be proactive and understand. Like, a lot, again, horror stories and then, the internet. So yes, I'm on TikTok, so I'll be watching videos, and a lot of people talk about, like, I forget the actual phrase for it, but I think it's like the red season of, like, freshman year. But basically freshmen fall from September to December for any person, any freshman ever. That is quite literally the most dangerous time for you to be on campus, not because there's anything going on campus, but just because you, as a freshman, you're new to the area, you're figuring out stuff. Obviously, you're 18, so, like, now you can go to, like, if there are fraternities that are throwing parties there. The Greek life, don't even get me started. But like, they're throwing parties, and like, people, they're like, oh, like, underage drinking doesn't happen that much. Yes, it does. Stop lying. Yeah. It does. I obviously do not condone it, but I just want people to understand and know, like, please be safe and know that the people you meet during orientation week may not be your best friend for the rest of your life. You may not even talk to them 2 weeks from now.
Right.
But understand that when you go out and when you're going to wherever, please be sure that you know where you are and you know how far it is for you to get back to your dorm or your apartment or wherever you're at.
Right.
And if you go with someone and you guys have the understanding that you're leaving together, leave with them. If you see them go with someone else, tell them no. And they will be mad at you. They will cuss you out. They'll be like, no, like, you're ruining my fun. But they will thank you in the morning.
Right.
Because they know that something could have happened. And it's really unfortunate that you have to prepare yourself and your friends and whoever you're with for that scenario to happen. But truly, you need to be careful. Absolutely. And also, do not drink anything. Please don't. Don't touch anything. If someone gives you something, literally pour it out. Don't touch it. Don't. No. Please do not. If you're going somewhere, bring your own drink or make something on your own, and then bring, like, a water bottle or something, and make sure it is a closed container with a lid, because people are nuts.
Listen, what are those parties about? They're about drinking, getting drunk, hooking up, dancing. You know what I mean? Like, we know that there are predators looking for these freshmen, especially vulnerable, who haven't a lot of experience, who are going to be a little gullible, and not because they're not intelligent.
Exactly.
It's a new environment for them. So they should know going in, they're going to be predators.
Yes.
Just waiting, looking for the most vulnerable.
Yep.
And just because someone talks to you doesn't mean that they're your friend.
No.
It's just and so the advice that you gave is key. If you want to decrease the likelihood of you being someone's victim, there are some things that you need to do. And just because somebody smiles at you or acts like they like you for a minute doesn't mean you need to hook up with them, because you're going to end up being the topic of someone's they'll be talking about, you'll be the topic of someone's conversation as the joke.
I want to, like those people that you see wearing the, like, it's not a poster, but it's like the cardboard will be in the front and the cardboard will be in the back, and they wear it over their shoulders.
Oh, yes.
Like, I feel like that type of person when I go to school, because I'm just like, you guys, like, I've been here for 3 years. I'm about to graduate this year. I just want to, like, run to all the freshman dorms and be like, don't do anything. Like, please, like, save yourself the heartache, save yourself the tears.
The
like,
embarrassment,
oh
the
my gosh.
humiliation.
I really, like, I have a running list of things I would not wish on my worst enemy, and that is one of them. Like, waking up the next morning not knowing what happened, not knowing why you're, like, where you're at, why you're there, what you might have done, like, that guilt and that just, like, overwhelming feeling, like, I couldn't even imagine.
I can't even imagine either. And, it's interesting. We are a culture of people who want to be connected to others. And especially, I think, when you go to college, you want you want to have friends, you want to have fun, and that's okay. However, you can't lose yourself. Even in that, you have to have boundaries.
Yes.
You have to have boundaries.
Yes.
And you have to be very clear, and they should be written down. You should think about them. So that when you're confronted with situations, you'll at least be able to not be blindsided.
Exactly.
I know it's real. It's real, and people are getting hurt. People are ending up with diseases or pregnant or just leaving school because they're embarrassed and they're humiliated. And so, as much as people want to have friends and be part of friend groups, you also don't want to be embarrassed in the joke of everyone and people talking about you. So you have to balance what you do. You really do, because you never want to be in a total loss of control.
It's so true. And even if, like, you'll be like, oh, well, I go to a big school, so it doesn't matter. You would not believe the stories I've heard about people I haven't even met. Like, obviously, well, I go to UMass Amherst, so there's, like, you don't know every single black person, but as someone who is a part of a minority at a predominantly white campus, like, you're gonna understand and start to see, the same faces, the same groups of people. So when you hear stories about people, it's like, I can only imagine how you feel, and I'm just hearing about it. Like, it's not like I asked someone for this information. It just
no. People want to talk. Guys like to talk. And it's not just guys, but they like to talk. Like,
yes. They talk all the time.
Absolutely.
You'll overhear stuff. You'll be walking through, like, the student union, the rec, dining hall. Don't even get me started on the dining halls. I personally have had some crazy conversations in the dining hall. Like, Burke personally, they have, like, these little round booths that are, like, in the back by some windows, and I have literally sat in the dining hall for, like, 2-3 hours and just, like, debriefed, like, a weekend with my friends, and we are literally in the back hooting and hollering. But I literally can't. I'm just like, no, like, yes, grow, yes, have experiences, but also, like, please be careful. And it is so unfortunate that you have to think from the perspective of someone like, oh, like, something's always going to happen. Like, something could happen to me. Like, every single time I go somewhere, in the back of my mind, I'm always like, okay, well, like, what's my exit plan? How do I get out of this? How do I, ensure that I get home safe? Which is wild that I even have to do that.
Right.
But it's just the unfortunate circumstance that we are in as, like, well, that I'm in as a young black woman, and then also just, like, black women and black people in general. But
yeah. Listen, it boils down to it, and I keep going back to the self-esteem, the self-worth, recognizing your value, and knowing that your actions have consequences.
Mm-hmm.
That you, like your state of mind, if you just have to be intentional and deliberate about the things that you do,
Mm-hmm.
about your life, about your friends, about your.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that you can't have fun,
Exactly.
right? You want to be mindful about what you're doing. You want to be intentional because, being mindful, intentional, emotionally literate, your emotional literacy is intact as much as possible. All of those are ingredients for a good life.
Exactly.
You don't want to put yourself in situations that are going to be unhealthy or painful.
Mm-hmm.
And you never, no one wants to be the joke or be seen as the thought, because people become thoughts,
Yep.
right? So it goes back to boundaries. It actually goes back to boundaries.
It does.
And your values and what's important to you, and just being clear about those things for you.
100%. Wow, this conversation truly took a direction that I did not think it was going to go in. But thank you, Linda, for your time.
Absolutely.
And I also just want to say to the listeners, thank you for listening and watching this conversation, for opening your mind to things you may not have considered before, and giving me and Linda your time. Take care of yourself, stay healthy, and remember that this is a word to us. Share it when you feel ready, and let me know if there's anything you want to hear from me or any guests. With peace and love, Kyla-Journey.
Somehow you came in like the wind and picked me up for good. And now I know what I have missed. I'm thinking that you should pick up the pieces, help me learn to stand, lift me from the ground and use your hands to hold me by the heart. Tell me I'll be whole again. Hold me by the heart. Tell me it will never end. 'Cause I've begun to think that I was nothing short of broken. So baby, hold me by the